Welcome to the video, and this is a quick 2-for-1. First, I've got a bit of a rant to get off my chest what social media has done to the word fitness, because it sure doesn't seem to mean what it used to mean to me when I was a kid. And then I'm going to tell you all about this new sport that, having just discovered, I'm going to learn how to do and then train for and then compete at in Manchester in just 8 weeks' time. And if you're thinking Christmas and yummy food is between now and then, and last year you ate way too much and went into January ridiculously heavy, doesn't that mean you'll just turn up for this new event out of shape, ill prepared, and make a fool of yourself? Yeah, you lost me at yummy. I have long had a minor irritation at the way fitness is, not always, but often presented on social media, Instagram, here on YouTube, where having a particular look can elevate you to achieving a following and a degree of influence under the fitness banner that is not necessarily proportionate to your actual fitness. In simple terms, for men, if you have a high degree of muscle and a low degree of body fat, which are of course within reason great attributes that can contribute to fitness, that's enough. You're in the social media fitness influencer club. No other attributes are actually required. As I say, minor irritation normally, but this week, 2 examples that have broken this camel's back. Camel, donkey, is it a donkey or a camel? Would a camel be carrying straw around? Doesn't matter. Firstly, Jenna, my wife, has signed up to compete next summer in a Spartan obstacle course race. She's going straight into age group, no messing about in open waves, posing for the cameras. She is going to race. But her running is a bit ropey, so she started to focus on it a lot more. Multiple times a week, she's getting miles in. Last weekend, started following a few women's running hashtags on Instagram for inspiration. Sunday evening, I'm flicking through her Instagram account looking at these runners. And it is just a succession of hot women in microscopic sportswear, occasionally wearing trainers or sat close to some trainers. At one point I did spot one of them actually on a running track, but she was in a thong and nothing else. I'm not convinced she was actually working out that day. Anyway, after a good hour of getting annoyed at this content, I said to Jen, "These don't actually look like they do much running at all." She said, "No, it's ridiculous. Give my phone back." I said, "Hang on a minute. I'm still getting very, very annoyed. 5 more minutes." And then she said, "It's actually demoralising. I'm running loads and I can't imagine I'm ever going to look like half of them. Why bother?" What the f***? I said, "You know this has nothing to do with running. This doesn't even have anything to do with being healthy necessarily. These people aren't here because they're VO2 max or their 10k time. They're here because they're lucky enough that their genetics and diet predominantly combine to produce an aesthetic that right now is just deemed to be ideal. Some of them may be amazing runners, but that's not why their photos are there." And what is more annoying was that Sunday morning I'd run the Hurtwood 50k ultramarathon with plenty of women, young and old, and men, young and old. It wasn't a women's only race that I'd sneaked into. Anyway, all of them had crushed a massive amount of distance over tough terrain, and yet outside that little bubble of people interested in that event, no one really cares. Certainly not on a scale comparable to the views and interest attracted by people who look nice, but despite being presented as an example of fitness, would have given up on the first hill of that 50k race. And yet people should care. Real fitness inspiration was right there. There are a few women that came past me, 35k in. And yes, there were men that came past me as well, but I am singling out women because I'm a 48-year-old man. No matter what I do, there will always be a tiny, tiny part of my brain that notices when I'm being beaten by a girl. Not in a bad way, just in an ingrained way that I can't prevent. I'm sorry, I grew up in the 80s. Things are better now. Anyway, they would just plod past and say stuff like, "Oh, good work, keep it going." And numerous times I would try and sit on their heels and use them to pull me along. And every time they just moved off into the distance. And despite that little bit of my brain having a "that's a girl" meltdown, I love it. At a time when you think it has never been more important to look after your health, yet there's never been more out of shape people on the planet, there is nothing more inspiring than seeing sometimes what is basically a little old lady bugger off up a hill, leaving you behind. It restores my faith in the idea that some people still do care about pushing themselves to see what their body can do, instead of thinking that just adding a heart rate monitor to your bikini and 4-inch heels is all you need to do to claim runner status. And that inspires me to be better, even if I can't bloody catch them. And then the second thing, yesterday I was talking to my kid, the one that's into his fitness. I was explaining that this event in Manchester that I'm going to tell you about in a minute, it involves a lot of physical challenges done one after the other. And he was saying how he could do great at some of them, and that if he went, he could beat me. I offered to pay for him to enter, but I pointed out to him that between each challenge was a 1k run, so he needed to put in some training in that regard. He didn't even ask how many 1k runs. One was enough. Forget it, he said. "I'm not doing cardio. It will kill my gains." Because everyone he follows on YouTube, people he gets his workouts from, whose diets he follows, have zero actual interest in fitness. You could pluck a random park runner and they would crush some of these guys on just a gentle jog. All they care about and are interested in is building muscle to look a certain way, bodybuilding. Which of course is fine, and bodybuilding has been around for quite a while. But when I was a kid, bodybuilding was bodybuilding. It wasn't regarded as the peak manifestation of health and fitness. In 1984, when I was 11 and wanted to look like the big weird bloke in a Terminator film, my school friends laughed and then went off to play football while I went home to use the plastic dumbbells that I'd got with my paper round money. Just exercising to look a certain way was not mainstream and had nothing to do with being fit and healthy. Fit and healthy then was Daley Thompson whistling the national anthem with a gold medal hanging around his neck. One of the greatest all-round athletes of all time with a body that wouldn't get past the application stage for Love Island today. If you gave my kid a choice of magic pills, one that would give him Daley Thompson's athletic abilities in the decathlon and his physique, and one that gave him no athletic abilities but the physique of his favourite YouTuber, he would take the second pill and still be left wondering why they named an Olympic event after a sports shop that's always next to a McDonald's. And you could argue that it doesn't matter, that it is better youngsters are following their favourite bodybuilding Instagram star than being sat at home eating Pringles, and it is, but the problem is the option of magic pills is not quite as metaphorical as it should be. Saying it doesn't matter would be to ignore that a huge percentage of people whose physique translates to views, subscribers, money, endorsements, take drugs for no other reason than to achieve that physique. And that in combination with a huge rise in therapeutic testosterone use has created a very much more relaxed approach to steroid use than ever used to exist before. If it's some guy who's in his 50s jumping on TRT when maybe he doesn't need to, but he loves Joe Rogan.
It's definitely true with some folks.
Whatever. The implications are probably negligible. But I've been in my local gym, which is about as far from a hardcore bodybuilding gym as you could possibly get. And I've heard young guys, 16, 17, 18 years old, talking to each other about Tren and Test and Deca and Psalms and what stack is best. And even if it's just talk to impress each other, the fact they are so open and aware of those options is scary. When I was a teenager, the barrier to entry in that world was significant. Social acceptability, friends and family disapproving, lack of information, just an ability to get hold of stuff if you didn't move in the right circles. None of that applies anymore. Bodybuilding no longer being a niche activity is fine, good even, but man, it is annoying that it has leapfrogged to the top of the pile when it comes to inspiring kids to get healthy. I can remember watching Superstars with my brother when we were little kids.
26, 27, 28, 29, 30.
And afterwards copying their workouts, getting my dad to count our sit-ups. Now we've got kids watching YouTube videos of drug-assisted athletes explaining to them which version of lateral raises will most recruit fibres from the medial delt. Some things might just have been better in the 80s. Okay, rant over. Right, end of January, I'm competing in Hyrox. Hopefully a proper test of proper fitness. So, in June, I'm doing Ironman. That means lots of long, boring training sessions next year. But I've got this little window the next 2 months before that starts. I'm already using it to increase my bench press. I did a video on why I need to do that already. If you can't be bothered to watch it, basically, I can't have my wife save me every time I go and train chest. No. And there will be another video coming in early January with the results of that bench press training. And I have a few fun challenges lined up in here for the channel. But apart from a couple of races with the dog, nothing serious in the diary. And then, randomly, YouTube, a few days ago, as though it somehow knows what I'm thinking, suggested I watch a video from Hunter McIntyre. He is an obstacle course racing athlete, and the video was him competing at the Hyrox Championships. Now, I'd vaguely heard of Hyrox last year, but never really paid much attention to it. But I watched Hunter's video, and I thought, actually, this looks very, very cool. It's basically a series of physical challenges separated by 1 kilometre runs. And unlike a lot of obstacle course challenges or CrossFit stuff, the bits between the running are things that I might not be good at, but they aren't quite as unsuitable for my body type as things like monkey bars and hanging on stuff at the obstacle course runs and Olympic lifts in CrossFit. You start off with a 1k run, then 1,000 metres on a ski erg, never used one but went sledging as a kid, 1k run, 50 metre sled push, you then do a 1k run and a sled pull, then run burpees, run farmer's carry, run sandbag lunges, run wall balls. So some of those, the pushing, the pulling, the carries and the rowing are things that a 6'6" heavier person might do okay at. And although there's 8k of running, it's only 1k at a time. Now, whenever I go into something with really high expectations, I typically do terribly. So I'm going to say that I am only cautiously optimistic at this time of being above average. It's hard to tell how I'm actually going to do because some of the things I've never even done before, and obviously I've never done them all back to back. So I've got no idea what a good time might even be. To give you an idea, Hunter has the world record at just under an hour. His combination of endurance and strength means he's pretty much perfect for it. He seems to run his first kilometres on those events in just over 3 minutes. He's also got a way over 500 pound deadlift. But he's the best in the world, so I'm not really focused on beating him. I'm guessing something like 1 hour 20, 1 hour 30, who knows. So 8 weeks of training and off I go, and then Ironman starts after that. And if you're thinking, hang on, doing a sport that is more closely aligned with my natural abilities, doesn't that go against my traditional approach of doing things that I'm not really suited for and seeing how I get on? You're absolutely right. It is something of a Christmas present to myself. Next year, I'm going to be spending a lot of time swimming in a river or a lake or whatever triathletes train for swimming in. So having some fun for the next few weeks is fine by me. And of course, I might suck. So there's that. Okay, like and subscribe, please. Bunch of cool stuff coming up in the next few weeks. Training for Hyrox, lots of stuff on Zwift. Going to be running plenty, and due to popular demand, the return of Pain Cave reviews. Check out my Instagram for details of submitting yours. Right, I'm out of here. See you guys on the next one.